So yes, guys, we're back with another video. Today I'm joined by Tebo and she's going to be explaining her story working with the base team and everything that she did in South Africa. So before we get into it, Tebo, I'm very happy to have you here. We've been working for a long time. It's been, what is it, like a year now that we've been working together?
Like a year.
Yeah,
Like
it's been
almost a year actually.
across the year. So obviously, I want you to basically share your story, what you've been working on. But before we even get into any of that, give us an intro about you, yourself, where you're based, what you currently do for work, and yeah, the type of things that you're involved in.
Okay, hi everyone. So I'm Tebohonong. I am based in Cape Town, South Africa. So currently I am working as a cybersecurity analyst, and I'm obviously being mentored in Web3 security. My background is quite interesting because before tech, I was doing film. So I have a master's in motion picture medium, and my thesis was about film archival management through blockchain technology. So that's how I found myself on the tech side and wanting to go a bit more further with that. So that's just like a little, history about my education and what I'm currently doing.
Amazing, amazing. And so before like working with me, did you have a background in tech? Did you have a background in crypto?
So before that, it was mostly from a research standpoint. So I was working for this organization called Smart Contract Research Forum. So we were mostly doing research around smart contracts. So it was never more of a technical side, but more of a research side. But that was my first like crypto job, or getting paid in crypto and understanding the ecosystem, that sort of thing. But obviously, it was a more so neutral company. It didn't belong to any specific so it didn't belong to any specific chain or whatever. So that
Mm.
was my first intro to crypto. And then you were my first Decentral Hub was my first intro to the tech side, the background, and understanding that there is, a future in a more technical, averse skill set.
That makes sense. And that leads on to my next question because it's always interesting to see people when they think of the crypto space, they always think of it like just like trading or meme coins or things like that. So you had a bit of exposure already, but even still, like breaking into crypto in terms of landing a tech role is very new to a lot of people. What did that look like for you? You said
Yeah.
you had exposure, so how was that kind of mindset shift to understanding that it exists?
First of all, like I didn't know, there were things like bug bounties. I didn't know there was such a thing as crypto security. I think my intro was obviously that NFT wave in 2020, 2021. That's where we were all like in this NFT craze. And I did get to work on some NFT projects, like there's a Grammy Award artist that did an NFT music project. So I was able to be part of that team, so that was quite interesting. But I had never thought, like, okay, let me challenge myself and branch into something a bit more technical. That's not just like research. So I think when I saw your TikToks talking about crypto security, like it really like grabbed my attention, because I also always try to kind of like be ahead of the curve when it comes to emerging technologies. So I thought, okay, this is pretty interesting. I'm in cybersecurity, but like it's kind of getting saturated right now. Everyone is doing cybersecurity, every business is doing cybersecurity courses. So I was like, okay, this is great, but clearly there's serious competition here. Where can I go? Whereby, not to say there's no competition, because I do see the tweets and everyone is also kind of hopping onto smart contract security research and that sort of thing. But it's not as widely spoken about as what cybersecurity is being spoken about now. So I just wanted to have an advantage, so it really, like, yeah, seeing your content really pushed me down a rabbit hole of, okay, there are more opportunities that are security, but in a more emerging technology vibe. So I really like that.
And that's smart. And I think it's a very good outlook you have and very proactive, seeing that where there's emerging tech and how you can get ahead of the curve. Because a lot of people just kind of sit back and wait for something to be trending to then jump on the wave, but then it's too late because it's saturated, so you don't get the most opportunity. Whereas you took that kind of leap for yourself to, be ahead of the curve, do your own research. And I guess, like, what kind of made you take the leap then in terms of getting on board with the Central Hub and deciding to work with me?
So before, obviously, like I've done the free education, I've been part of like NPOs that were teaching cybersecurity, I've done like, searching the webs, doing my own personal research. But there obviously comes a time whereby you need to go a step further and get mentorship. Because a lot of the times it's like your mentor ran, so you can walk. And I think the best way, the nice thing about mentorship is like it's kind of like a shortcut, right? Because you don't have to make all these 5 million mistakes because that person has already done that. So for me, it just felt like, why must I now like um choose what might be cheaper, but it might take me forever. Whereas I could just get a mentor who's been on this journey. Yes, I'm going to pay a bit of money, but I'm not paying, I'm investing. And it's going to compound because knowledge compounds and skills compound, because once you have a skill, you have it. And the small amount that I'd be paying for a course that you've curated might not even compare to what it would look like when I'm working as a crypto security practitioner, right? Like it's a small investment, but if I look at the bigger picture, I won't even think about that amount that I spent. It's more of a investment in myself. Yeah.
And I think that's a very good way to put it. It's like I always say to people that when I was getting into crypto myself, I had no guidance. So it took me a lot longer than realistically. I always used to go on that journey and used to look back and I shouldn't have done that, or I should have done this. And I had so many of those moments because I did it by myself. So now people having access to someone like me who's done it and has helped people go through it, I now have a curated pathway. So you don't have to make the same mistakes. All you really have to do is learn, the fundamental things I teach, the roadmap, etc. And yeah, so in terms of working with me, then what was the first few months like when you first started? Like, was there a lot of change of your like perspective or a lot of new things to learn? Like, yeah, what was the first few months like in general?
I think, I mean, to be fair, I think I was quite intimidated because when you start something new, like your brain wants you to know what you're doing, but you obviously can't know what you're doing because you're starting something new. So, I was obviously you were quite patient. We'd meet weekly, and it would be a thing of like you don't have to know everything. Just like allow yourself to be exposed to the information, to learn something new, So I think a lot of the times people like that imposter syndrome stops you from learning completely because people feel like they should be experts. How are you going to be an expert if you're starting something new? So that was kind of like the battle I was having of allowing myself to be a beginner, of allowing myself to be like, this is something new. So the first few months were really like those um more so a mindset shift and allowing that mindset shift to happen, to be like, this is new information. Don't be so hard on yourself. Like allow the information to come through. And then I think, where the light bulb shined was when we started doing more practical work and doing like the bug bounties and actually seeing the theory in action. I think that really like opened my mind now to be like okay, 3 months we were really looking at the theory but also the practical, but actually going into like a real audit also showed me that no man, this is doable. Just apply yourself, so that was quite interesting for me mentally.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think you always need that combination of theory and practical because I think that's where like university and traditional education falls behind is that you get a lot of theory, but the practical is not, even if there is practical, it's like mock situations where it doesn't reflect what you do in real life or in the job.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, like you said, going through a real audit, there's no better way to learn how to do an audit than to, sit through one and try to do one yourself. Um,
Exactly.
and do you feel like there's anything that you learned that maybe you didn't expect to learn?
Um, I think I think what I learned was that first of all, I didn't know like how many companies are literally giving opportunities for people to sort of explore their systems and be so open and transparent. And I think for me that's one thing I learned. And then I'd say like deeper than just the work, I think it's the mindset more than anything, right? Because it's always more so just have a builder's mindset and just like go for it. Because I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a woman. I think with women we're not as audacious as men. Because I think men, you guys kind of like go for things, whereas for me I had to learn, like I guess being around you guys, I had to learn like, okay, just be a little bit more audacious. You don't have to know everything. Sometimes you can just know a few things, apply yourself, and you can also learn on the job. You can be trained, you can learn while doing the thing. So I think more than anything the mindset shift is what really like stood out for me the most.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
Mm.
I guess that kind of, you're talking about being audacious, so that kind of leads on to then you working with bass, doing the bass batches. I think that's quite an audacious thing to get involved in. But tell me about it because I don't actually know fully myself exactly everything that goes on. As you were there, tell me what was that experience like? In fact, before we even get into it, how did you even find out about it?
So with base batches, I also found out about it. I think I found out about it on TikTok, if I'm not mistaken. And because I was also making like TikTok content, some people from base would message me either on LinkedIn, on TikTok, and I was also speaking about the work we were doing as well. So I think people would then see, oh, this person is in Web3, they're into Web3 security, like, when people see you putting yourself out there and they see the energy, then they reach out. So I think some of the ambassadors would reach out to me and would tell me about base, and they'd be like, okay, base batches is going to open soon. So I think that was also the wave of putting yourself out there and doing your own thing, and then opportunities come. So that's how I found out about base batches. So I joined it, and obviously continuing that philosophy of doing more practical work and building more projects. So it obviously forces you to build a project. So I was able to build a project and obviously get mentorship from some of the base ambassadors. And I'd also like in our own sessions with Decentral Hub, I'd be like, oh, Jacob, what's happening here? And it'd be like, okay, walk us through your app. How did you go about it? So I think for me, I was kind of like killing two birds with one stone, like continuing that, keeping up with building projects, and through also joining a competition, it kind of forces you to show up. And then you're also incentivized to just like complete. So I think that's how I came up with joining it and following through, because it's so easy to like give up, but now you're already in it, so just like finish. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always good. I think that kind of setup, you did a hackathon as well, didn't you, right? You did a
Yes,
hackathon.
it was sort of like that kind of setup whereby you are sort of like competing with people globally, and they choose the winners, and you need to present it. What problem are you solving? Which tools did you use? GitHub repo, very like the practical stuff where you have all your ones and twos together. So, yeah.
And I think you did something else as well. You had like a dinner
Yeah.
in Cape Town. So what was that experience like? It's very, I feel like this is what crypto is about. There's always obviously it's the crypto stuff, but there's a lot of community stuff. And from what I was seeing, I was following on TikTok, you're very, very involved in community as well.
Absolutely. So I did a base launch. So they had this tis the season sort of like launch, and I did the Cape Town version. So I did a dinner with a few people, like different people from different backgrounds. So just bringing them together, talking about the app, getting to experience the app. So I think that was very interesting for me. And then also realizing just how like, okay, what like how important networking is. Cause then you start realizing, oh, I don't know, I had so many like cool people on my phone that I can just put together dinner in a matter of 24 hours, you know. So that was pretty impressive for me. Um, yeah.
That's crazy. So you what, the dinner, you organized it in 24 hours.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's good.
Literally.
So what would you say then is like throughout that whole basics? Because also, guys, if you don't know, Base is part of Coinbase, right? Coinbase is the second biggest, I believe, crypto
Mhm.
exchange. Base is like a chain that Coinbase built. And they have ambassadors and hubs in different locations. Obviously, you were with the South Africa one. But like, what was it like, being exposed to a chain like Base and their ecosystem? Do you feel like it gave you any sort of like competitive edge?
I definitely think so. Like I think it mostly like okay exposed me to like okay being involved in the crypto space again, like getting paid again in crypto, you know, using also South African exchanges like from Base to like, you know, our own wallets, getting the money into my bank account, things like that. Like it, you know, it reminded me of okay assets and like, you know, tokenization and all those things, and remembering that this is also real life besides the, you know, traditional finance that we use in our own countries and currencies, you know. So that was really cool again, and I do think I enjoy that. I enjoy being able to get paid in crypto and in a different currency to rands. It's actually very fun, and you know, I think, and it also just like it's borderless, you know, it kind of cuts out so many middlemen, and it also allows for you to be exposed to so much more. Yeah. So I think that's what I liked about it. And also realizing that yeah, community is a very important thing. Like community is a very important thing. And it made me want to build more actually, you know, more than just like, oh, I'm earning or I'm getting these incentives. It made me want to actually learn more and build more and actually have that full circle moment to be like, okay, let's go deeper into this technical world. Yeah.
I think even with me, like I started off on Chainlink in the community, just going to community events and speaking and just sharing my expertise. So again, you've done a similar thing. I think in
Mm.
crypto, you have this kind of opportunity, like imagine if you could go to like a Facebook community event and then be working with them, getting paid, but it doesn't really exist in traditional tech. But in crypto, you have these opportunities, which I think it's amazing. Like, and borderless,
Mm.
like international from UK, Dubai, South Africa, like
Yeah.
everywhere in the world, you have these kind of setups. So yeah, I think that's amazing. So, um, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And obviously, you've been with the Central Hub now for about a year. What would you compare? Like, how would you compare yourself to like when you first joined to now? Like the progression, things that you've learned, your exposure. What would you say is different?
I think just like confidence, you know, because, and also being in like a community where people are such high achievers, because there's already people that have gotten jobs and things like that. And I'm like, damn, okay, I need to get myself together, you know, because um with Jordan, like him and I started together and we're in class together, you know, and obviously like I focus on different things, and the more on the ground community work and things like that, and he still continued on the more technical route and was able to get a job within what we've been learning, right? And then he was also like pushing me like, look at the kind of jobs look at the interviews I'm getting. And I was just like, okay, damn, okay, let me lock in. Let me lock in. So I think it's quite refreshing to know that like you can start at the same time with someone, you can get into class and you can see that trajectory of them from being a student to actually working in that industry and seeing that full circle moment. So it's not a thing of, okay, we in Decentral Hub, it's just for vibe, it's just PR. It's actually real life whereby you're learning the skill, you're applying yourself, you're doing something you've never done before. And now you've started a whole career. So I think that's very, very cool.
Think that's one of my favorite things to see for everyone
Yeah.
that's me, just seeing the way everyone like is helping each other out. Like we have the job board where everyone's sending in roles, everyone speaks to each other what they're working on. It's like everyone's got the same kind of end goal, so everyone's just motivating each other, and especially like you and Jordan, you're working closest with me in terms of security. So yeah, like yeah, it's good to see that you guys are, pushing each other along and getting
Yeah.
it's good. What would you then tell yourself then, like the version of you, let's say before you joined, maybe to someone who could relate, maybe they're thinking about joining, or maybe they're thinking about getting into crypto from the tech side or just hearing about it. What would you tell to that person? And that obviously, because that was the version of you at that time as well. What would you say to yourself? What would you say to that kind of person?
I'll tell them that like investing in yourself is worth it. And nobody can take your knowledge away from you. One thing about knowledge and skill, it compounds. So you can take whatever you're given and you can turn it into something very powerful and very just like life giving, because even a lot of the things that you'd find yourself you're involved in and the kind of people you're involved in, it just multiplies, and not just through work, but through your network, through just your growth. So I definitely tell people that like it's worth it. Like growth is worth it, and it's just one of those things that no one can take away from you.
So I agree with that. I think any knowledge that you learn, anything that, exposure that you're getting, it's always lessons that can be learned. It's always going to help you get stronger and more qualified. And I think even to people like, even for you, like I have a lot of respect for you because, for example, a lot of people think that there's no opportunities in Africa. You're based in South Africa. I work with a lot of people from Nigeria. I'm Nigerian myself. And there's a lot of people in these regions who are probably thinking maybe they're underqualified, maybe they're too late, maybe there's no opportunities. What would you say to someone like that as well?
I would say, don't allow like where you are to limit you, because there are so many opportunities. And in fact, if you're going to compare yourself according to the global scale and you even zone into your own region, you'd see that you're actually quite early. You'd actually see that you're quite early. So I'd tell people it's really more than anything, it's perspective. Perspective. You're never too late.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think, especially now, crypto's like on an uptrend, especially within Africa specifically, across from
Hmm.
West Africa to East Africa, South Africa, North Africa. Everyone's trying to get into Africa. One of my biggest clients right now is building a project out of Africa. And it's because it makes sense, the use case of crypto makes the most sense. Africa has the biggest use case for crypto from a financial standpoint. And then when you look at that, think about all the tech that's being built behind it, and then get me opportunities like that you're working on that we're working towards are gonna emerge from there. So I think, yeah, it's definitely I would say to people in Africa, no matter where you are, crypto is global. Crypto is a fully global industry. So yeah, definitely tap in. There's local communities everywhere. Yeah, what are you gonna say
Yeah.
as
Well, I was saying, like, even with some of our biggest banks, they're integrating, different exchanges, they're integrating blockchain. So, I mean, if TradFi is doing that, then it comes to show you that clearly there's something happening when it comes to blockchain and crypto. So if you are a young person that wants to pivot, that wants to learn skills, then probably those are your signs, where if finance is kind of like trusting these systems and these knowledge systems, then probably you should look into it.
Definitely, definitely. And for you personally as well, we spoke about building projects and everything that you've been working on. Is there anything that you're working on right now? What would you say is like your next kind of endeavor? Um, yeah, what trajectory are you going down next?
So I think my next endeavor, since we've established that I'm always trying to stay at the top of like emerging trends, it would definitely be more so around like AI security. I definitely do think there's a gap, and especially like in South Africa and Africa. Like in South Africa, I think we have one of the biggest unemployment rates. I don't know if it's in Africa or the world. I don't know. I'm not sure, but we do have quite a big unemployment rate, and I think a lot of the times maybe it's not even like lack of opportunity, but lack of knowledge of where to find opportunities. So I think for me, given that we are still in that AI era, AI bubble, um, I do think AI security kind of like spans, whether it's in cybersecurity, crypto, whatever. Like, I do think that niching into that gap and actually seeing how I can help young people hone those skills and, actually curb this unemployment issue that we're having in my country. I think that would be great for me. So that's like my next project, really looking into how we can close those gaps.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah, I heard you up to, you said help young people hone their skills.
Yes, I think helping young people hone new skills and like close those knowledge gaps, and hopefully seeing if we can really like sort of fight this unemployment issue that's happening in my country in Africa as well. Yeah.
I think that's a good pathway to go down. I think AI security is crazy right now because at least from a crypto sense, it was just we just finished April, and in April there was a hack every single day, sometimes even two, and like to me it's obvious that AI is assisting these hackers, but also that means that developers also need to increase their knowledge on what the threats are, and I think AI is definitely going to play a big part in that. So yeah, I think you're 100% spot on right. That is a gap that needs to be solved, and educating the up and coming developers how that they can get into that makes perfect sense. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I think yeah, you've done well so far. Everything that you've been exposed to has been very good so far. It's been a journey. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's journey looks like how they learn. To have that exposure, working with base, getting paid from base, and building several projects and having your own niche while also bear in mind doing all of this while also working full time as a cybersecurity analyst. Can't go understated that that is a serious hustle. Uh,
Yeah.
it's been good to see you progressing and being part of the community is very good. So yeah, I just want to see you keep pushing along and keep progressing even further.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm super motivated. Like right now, I'm actually, yeah, I'm just excited like to really get into, because now it's winter in Cape Town, so I'm not going outside. I'll be sitting inside and really like learning, because even the other interviews I've seen that you've done with other people in the community, I think it's I'm not sure. I don't know if it was Jacob's interview, where he was saying like he just sat down for maybe a month or two and really just went deep into the work, just deep dived into the work. So that's what I really wanted to do. Like for a few months, I just want to keep my head down, and learn the knowledge that I can learn, and just see what comes out on the other side of that. Like what does it look like?
And also we were talking the other day, we've got some new interesting updates coming to the community, which I think should be very valuable for everyone. So
Exactly.
yeah, so anyone who's
I
not in,
did.
get joining. But yeah, no, it was very good catching up with you, Teva.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
yeah, I think, yeah, like I said, you're doing great things already. So just gotta keep pushing. And yeah, we might have another call
All
in the future,
right.
catching up. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'll end
Bye.
it.
Thank you so much.
Hold on. I'll end the call there.